stream session is seemingly coming out of nowhere, but not really. So if you're watching this while it's not live, the main reason is because I am a little bit behind on this video, but I just want to make sure that it comes out well. And I put a lot of thought into it. I say this, and it's only like I have the raw footage up here, a 4 minute and 16 second video. So you guys are like, okay, well, okay. But for a frame of reference, I don't know what's going on here, but just so you guys get the context, the Bruce Lee's Secret, the isometric power that built a legend video is almost at 50,000 views. And I'm putting about the same amount of effort into the Alexander Zass video that's coming up. Hint, hint. But what about Zass is it? That I put into the Bruce Lee video. I'm not saying it'll get 50,000 views, but I think that a lot of people will like it. So today will be all about basic Q&A, but I'd like to open the floor to getting some isometric influential figures on here. Now, we don't really talk about this much with Q&A. Normally, when we talk about influential figures, we're 9 times out of 10, we're talking about who? We're talking about Bruce Lee. And I still, October will be 5 years on the platform, and I still find his power to weight ratio just mind-blowing all these decades later. And some people really go on the realm of this is not real, it's all show, and the people that really knew Bruce would beg to disagree. If it was show, I don't think all the books would really hit home for a lot of people, especially people that knew Bruce. They're in their golden years now, but they knew how he trained, and particularly the overcoming isometric style of the method of training tends to be, and still to this day, criminally overlooked. And I think at this point I'd have to put it on, as people start to get educated on overcoming isometrics, it's less now a question of does it work. People understand that it works. It's more now a question of how do you program it. So I'm going to give you guys, I know I've talked about this many times on Q&A as like the main topic of the Q&A. This is just general Q&A plus isometric figures for those logging into the live stream. How do you program your OI? So there's a couple of ways, 2 main ways that I took from Paul Wade's isometric manual that I still run with to this day. The first one, which is by far my favorite, is to do Bob Hoffman's Super 8 alone. So for example, these were the 8 exercises that Bruce Lee ended up adopting, which was to do those 8 exercises daily, roughly 10 minutes to do all of them. So 8 exercises, 20 seconds all in. 6 to 12 seconds all in, 20-second rest times. You got a little bit of time to take between the sets to adjust the chain link or the strap or whatever. And so that will run you about 8 minutes going all in. I prefer that because it's just nice and simple for me, and this is just my preference. Maybe you guys don't really care to do this, and that's fine. I prefer workout programs that are simple. The more I have to figure stuff out, the less motivated I am to do it. I don't want to have to solve a quadratic equation for my workout program. I want it to be A to B as efficient as possible, but still getting all the gains. That said, that's mainly what brought me to Bob Hoffman's Super 8. And I think I mentioned it in the members only video. Was it last? I don't know. This summer is going by really fast. That I was starting that, and I still like this. I like that I'm able to just go all in, and then have a couple hours go by, and then it's time to lift. That if you want to talk about waking yourself up on any given day, um, you go into a OI session. I mean, you're awake, dude. Now, real quick, I recommend warming your body up first before you exert 100% effort into anything. So this could be something like a 5 minute jog outside, and then you come in. So of course that is going to raise the session time to about 15 minutes. Wow, 15 minutes for just insane strength gains. And actually, we do have a couple of videos on the channel, backed with evidence, by the way, that you do hit higher numbers when your body's warmed up, and that makes sense. Like I always have better days. Uh, warming up into PR lifts and heavier sets in the weight room than I would if I did not warm up. And to be honest, I mean, I only have like 4 months, so I'm 36. So I'm not even thinking about going into any lift without warming up when it's heavy. So that's anybody can relate. Okay, um, I used to I used to raw dog into into lifts, and just that was like when I was early 20s. That's just not happening now. That's a good way to get hurt. Um, so that's the first way, and that's the way that I prefer. The second is for, and I've trained people for this second way. If time is just limited, and that's where you combine the OI into your weightlifting session. Excuse me. And what I found the best way to do that, okay, is to front load it. So it's like, when you're in a lift session, do you do your isolated movements first and then you end on your compound movements, or do you do compound movements and end on your isolated? Right, so you start with the compound movements. You get the heavy stuff done first, okay, so that you can just kind of gas out on the isolated. It keeps you safe, and you're just gonna get more. You're gonna get more bang for your buck out of your workout overall. I can get more into it with fitness jargon and exercise science, but the basic premises is there. So with that said, here's what mine used to look like, and I it's not that it didn't work. I just found myself not as motivated when I trained that way. But again, like my schedule's different. I work split shift. For those that are new, I'm a personal trainer and online coach. So I tend to have clients in the morning. I have this gap midday, around lunch, and then I go back into work and end in the evening. So I'm working on paper. I'm working all day, uh, so I can do that. I can split it up. But if I were working 8 hours, right, and then I'm just done, I'd probably opt for the second, which is front loading the OI. There's nothing wrong with that. I just feel like it's less stress for me to do the Bob Hoffman, do the 8-10 minute. Anyway, so what that looks like. Um, let's say I was doing what's up. um, let's say I was doing, I don't know, I'm just gonna say back and buys, right? And let's take my workout right now. So I'm doing like my workout for pull day. I'm doing back by and traps, right? And so I start with my lat pull down. I go into the barbell shrug. I love shrugs for traps. And then I'll go back to my cable row. Then I'll do the hyperextension for lower back with isometric holds, which is absolutely phenomenal. If you have any lower back issues, highly recommend. I've been doing that before the channel started. Uh, and then what's the next heavy? I think I'll go into isolated, right? Yes, I do. I'll do the dumbbell preacher curl on the preacher bench, and then I'll do face pulls with 3-second isometric holds. Um, in the, what is it, shortened position? Why am I tripping right here? And then I'll do hammer curls. No, incline hammer curls on the bench. That was last program. This program, incline hammer curls on the bench, which I absolutely love. It just eliminates cheating, so you can't really swing if you're on an incline curl and you're doing a hammer curl. If your biceps and forearms aren't able to contract maximally, I mean, you're just not going to get the weight up, and that's what I like. I like those non-cheating type moves. And then the last one is the gripper. So hey, watch it. Let's go. I know this is we probably would have had more if I had like prepped you guys, but for those that don't know, I'm coming up on a weddings really soon, so like my schedule is just getting more and more out of whack the closer we get to the date. So yeah, fun and part of why the uploads have been getting a little bit more scattered lately. Uh, so you guys just and one more thing. What was the ab exercise? Always have an ab, a core exercise. In this case, the back and bi is the one day where I have two because the lower back is still core. It's just on the posterior chain, right? So the anterior chain, which is the front of the body, I will either substitute just to keep it fresh. That's which day I do it really. Lower leg lifts to really work the lower abs, or I'll just do body weight sit-ups on the highest incline that our sit-up bench at our gym has, just to really maximize on the angle and the contraction of the rectus abdominis. So those are my, what was that, 9? I believe that was 9, right? So how do I fit OI? Well, I have to do that first. And believe it or so now it's like, okay, so what OI at what frequency? Because everything else in the weight room is anywhere between 8 to 12 reps for my program right now. So what exercises would I perform? Now, again, I'm doing isomax, right? It's really portable. So for me that it just works to set up load mode. I'm just so locked into that right now. If I did not have the isomax, I would either use our power rack, which luckily has the the safety bars where I could just push in. I think you guys saw me do that in a couple of videos before. I was wearing like the blue pants, right, and the gray shirt, and I was like doing the bicep curl into the overcoming iso style into the power rack. Or I don't like to do this, but it does work. Get the barbell and load all the 45s up until I can't move it, and then perform the exercise, and then unload all of those. It does work, but again, I prefer things that don't have a lot of setup. But you gotta do what you gotta do. So it's really do what you need to do to get the results you need. The exercises would either be the bicep curl, or the row. That would be it. Honestly, it's just those two. After that, I really, if I want to, get spicy with it, the shrug, and I would go probably do a 2x6 for those. So a 2x6 for the row, I would start because that's the compound. Then I would do a shrug. Then I do the bicep curl. So that's a total of 6x6, right? It's not really, but 2x6, 2x6, 2x6. So that's 36 seconds of maximal tension. Well, 12 seconds of maximal tension across each muscle group. And that's it. I put the isomax away and I just go lift. So what is that? Like 4 minutes out of my session time? And it's going to be more if I use the power rack, if anyone uses the power rack. Again, which is fine. It's all about, is that what you want to do? Yeah, once that's done, here's what I really like about this method that you don't get if you do the one that I like, which is the Bob Hoffman at a separate time. So we have talked a little bit about the immediate after effect on the channel. But essentially all that is this utilizing what's called Hebb's rule. So if you're new on the channel, this might be a new thing I'm telling you. For those that have been on the squad for a while, you're like, yeah, yeah, Heb's rule, we know. So Heb's rule states that muscle fibers that wire together fire together. Essentially, what that means is that if you're training your body to fire on all cylinders, your dynamic training is going to function exactly the same. So, if you are struggling with any type of strength, right, and you just need to get past that plateau, OI is probably the best bet. Isometrics are still second to none as far as strength development only, because it's the only thing where it teaches you to fire on all cylinders 100%. Even 1RMs still fail because you're not at the highest end of that force velocity curve. Okay, so when you're on the Isomax or Power Rack, right? You want to obviously exert maximal force. Lost my train of thought real quick. Dang, I hate that. When I go on so many tangents, I get distracted on what the Rinkuna, yes, I am getting married. Yes. um, film facts. If you do yielding isometrics, but you add time and weight progression, will it cause hypertrophy? Yes. Because why? Because thank you, thanks, Rinkuna. Rinkuna. Uh, yes, it will because you have the tension. The main factor for growth is tension. Doesn't Your body doesn't really care if it's dynamic or static. It just cares about is the tension there. Now, what matters the most with that is the load. I remember what I was talking about. I won't forget now for the other thing. Um, what matters is the load. So, like, let's say you guys were like, okay, Chris said, it was all about the tension, but I'm just not seeing any hypertrophic response with my yielding isometrics. Well, bet what was the weight with? Was the weight with 20-pound dumbbells, or was the weight with the 45 that you need for growth? Right? So you want to train with the appropriate load. It's kind of like how you'll see sometimes there are people maybe in your local gym that use like light weights, and they're like, well, my muscles are burning, so it's clearly a lot of tension, but I'm just not seeing any response. Well, you're becoming really efficient at that weight. Your muscle endurance is probably through the roof with that light weight, but there's really no cause for sarcoplasmic hypertrophy because the load is not there. I mean, you simply need to increase the weight. So as long as the load is there, you're going to get a hypertrophic response. All yielding isometric is dynamic with a hold. Preferably, in my opinion, at the optimal point of tension or area where you tend to fail. Um, uh, would you say most of the isometric people on YouTube are lean and not muscle bulky, right? Because they probably are. This is my guess. They're either going for strength and they're doing that OI thing, um, without building a base, or their load is just not enough. So if you want context, right? So I've been lifting since 2009. So I only ran into isometrics, specifically OI, in 2020. So at that point, I had 11 years of weightlifting under my belt. I had built a pretty much a sarcoplasmic hypertrophy build. So now I'm adding OI to that. So that I guess I would be the outlier. Um, there's a chance that I would look a little different if I had known about OI, prior to. But I always wanted more of a hypertrophy type build, and to a certain extent, as a base anyway. So I in that sense, I got most of what I wanted, not all of it, most of what I wanted, and now I'm building the base. Um, if I could go back, by the way, I would definitely everything would be super balanced. I would just have OI, a lot of my weightlifting, sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, blah blah blah, and ending on calisthenics and yielding isometric burners. Like my workout programs would have been so much more efficient. I'm convinced I would have gotten my physique in half the time. But hindsight's 2020. Um, but back to, hopefully that answers your question, by the way, film booth. So back to the OI. So front loading that, front loading the 2x6, 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 go into the weight, and I was talking about the immediate after effect. So the immediate after effect, right, is like, let's say, and I just did this for a client. I just switched her to, I train her twice a week. She does one day on her own. And I was like, hey, we're going to switch this up. Because I noticed at right around like the last 2 weeks of we just finished the 8 week. She was starting to plateau. Everything else was fine, but she was starting to plateau in just raw bicep strength, right? So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at your macros, all right? Macros were, I mean, not perfect, but good enough to, still, make gains. So I'm like, all right, let's just shock this. So I was like, hey, for this new program, we're going to switch a couple exercises up, but we're also going to add this isomax. She knows about the YouTube channel and everything. So I'm like, all right, bet. We're going to go through our entire program, blah, 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 exercise. When it's time to do the bicep curl, I'm going to have you do the isomax first, a 6x6. And then I'm going to have her go into the preacher curl. Now, is it a 1-to-1 translation? No, I'm not having her doing standing easy curl, bicep curl. But it doesn't really matter. You don't need to do the exact exercise to get the immediate after effect. All that means is that, again, it's Hebb's rule, muscle fibers that wire together, fire together. Tongue twister. So her muscles will now be accustomed to ripping 100% and producing 100% maximal effort. You guys know maximal voluntary contraction, MVC. So this was the first for her, and once she understood, once she understood the number on the isomax bar, she was like, oh, well, I just simply need to curl harder. Yeah, you are absolutely correct. So the main thing with her is I wanted to make sure that she wasn't warping her back to get a higher number. She wasn't. Sometimes what I see people do on the isomax is like they'll bring their hands here, right, and curl here, which does end up bringing the number up because there's a drag curl and you're gonna get more attention there. But it's not the bicep curl, okay? So at the end, she did get a higher number. Believe she started, what she get, like mid 40s. And right at the end, she hit about 58, right? So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, let's go. And she was excited. And so here's how I coached her. When it was time to go to the preacher curl, I was like, hey, so you remember how I told you, go all in on these curls. You remember what it meant to go all in. If you did not produce your maximal force, the number that you were looking at on the isomax, it's not going to go up. You can't trick that. It's just your effort, or you just get a lower number. It is what it is. She was like, yeah. So I was like, bet. When you do this curl, I want you to contract the same exact way that you did on the bicep curl. And she was just like, okay. So we started here. Well, I was having to do one arm at a time. So I was like, here, all right, start here, lower, right here, boom, contract, boom. And you could see like that and again, I've been coaching her for, recently, we took a break from COVID. Recently about 2 years, and before that was 3 years. That was at a different time. Anyway, so I'm used to seeing her do curls. Okay, so I could tell immediately that immediate after was working. So she was just like, now when she finished the set, I asked her, did this feel any different? And she gave me the answer I thought, which was, oh, I don't really know. And which is fine, because for her thing is just, okay, my coach just told me to pull really hard. Okay, we pulled really hard. But for me, I'm just so used to seeing, I watch body language for a living essentially. So I'm used to seeing all of the components just light up and how she just completely, because normally what she'll do is just come down like that and then just slowly and then struggle and maybe get it up. But I could see immediately how efficient it was to come back up. You could see her 100% contract. Now, I told her, it's like, this is not like some magic pill. Like, this is not going to make you able to, like, curl 40s when our limit was 25 pounds. That's where she's at right now. Our limit is 25 pounds. That's not how it's going to work. But what this is going to do is this is going to significantly speed up your progress in your preacher curl and your pull down and rows as well, because the biceps are what? They're a synergist muscle in those exercises. For lat pull down, obviously I have the latissimus dorsi, and the biceps, right? So if the biceps are stronger on the lat pull down, your lat pull down is stronger. If your biceps are stronger on your seated row, right? The lats and the rhomboids and the rest of the upper back complex, primary movers, but the biceps are the synergist muscle. So what do you expect to happen? That's all gonna go up, right? So I did kind of teeter on having her do seated row, and in my mind it would have made more sense, but I wanted her to really focus on just the biceps, because again, it goes back to what I said at the beginning of her story, which is her compound lift numbers were fine. Like, they've been progressing literally from week 1 to week 8 just fine. So I didn't really feel a need to throw isos into for those movements into her program. I just saw the X factor and I was like, all right, let's just fix that. If that makes sense. So that's how that's one of many examples of how I program OI into my client's program. Now here, I want you guys to address the elephant in the room. What did I tell you guys about 15 minutes ago? I said if you're doing OI, you should be front loading it. Okay? So the reason why hers wasn't front loaded is because we were just targeting one thing. We were just targeting the bicep. All right, if we wanted like a completely spec'd out program, then I would have been like, okay, bet. Let's do the seated row. I know how to do like the lat pull down attachment for lat pull down isomax OI. I would have gone that route. But for her, with how she's doing, I really didn't feel the need to do that. Now, depending on how this new program ends, I might end up doing the traditional, I'm going to front load OI, then we do the dynamic for the rest, and then have you do the calisthenics and yielding burnout at the end. That flow has been working incredibly well. Why is that not a video? That needs to be a video. The flow of programming isometric. Oh my God, I'm slacking, guys. I have wedding brain right now. I'm sorry. I'm gonna use a little bit of on session screen time, and I'm writing that down. It's really good. Flow of OI for lifting. That won't be the title of the video. I'm gonna make it like better title than that. Dynamic. Cali yielding OI burnout. I mean yielding burnout, not yielding OI burnout. Okay. Man, why has that not been a video? See, that's why we do these. I believe I missed a comment because I was going on a tangent. Yeah, Rikuna, please make that. Yeah, I would definitely make that. All right, film facts. I'm glad.